It's my time, it's my season, and I've got a good reason to open my mouth. Gonna let it out, open your mind, grab your friend, hope you listen to the end. The vibe is good and learning meets on She Who Speaks.
Hi, welcome with us to a whole new episode of She Who Speaks. I'm Renee, lover of a good laugh and all things behavioral. With me is Marilyn. She's unassuming, but with a good listening ear, and Love Men, the unstoppable force with an angelic voice. Today we're force strong because we have our ARNP, LMNOP, QRST, UV, WXYZ, Sherrine. Sherrine has been with us. Literally, we're laughing because Sherrine is, she loves learning. She calls herself a nerd. So I don't want you to think I'm calling her nerd.
I am a nerd.
She is. So she literally yesterday added more letters. Like, she is serious about learning and she's serious about you. And so she's always making things better. So we have brought someone who is just classy and good with no hold bar information. She'll tell you all the good stuff. She'll give you all the tea. She'll talk about all the juices, including vaginal wine. And all of them. Anything you can think of, Sherrine has had experience with. And today we're just excited to have you join us to talk about love after life. I'm kidding, that's not what it's called. Intimacy after childbirth, but it's the same thing, love after life. So Sherrine, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me back.
Of course.
So now our subject matter is a little different than last time, but I love all things women's health, all things sex.
Yes, you know.
And how to make it better and how to make it enjoyable even after these transitions, which is one of the biggest ones, childbirth being one of the biggest transitions, all the changes that happen in our body when we have babies, trying to get back to kind of where we were and still be able to enjoy the thing that brought us the baby.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very important.
Exactly. And it's so interesting. I think I was talking to a friend the other day and we were saying how, you know, how glamorized having a baby is on TV. You're pregnant and you're like, oh, I'm glowing and growing. Oh, this is so great. But no one talks you through, or if you're me and your friends are real and open, they tell you all the other stuff that's not on TV. Too much. They're like, poor. You're like, I don't know if I want this anymore. But they don't kind of walk you through the biological or the physical changes that happen during pregnancy and how some of that can actually impact your body, your health, your sex drive. So can you share with us some of those fun details?
So I you know, when I was preparing for this, I said, I'm only going to get a little scientific because I don't want it to go. You know, the nerd part of me comes out. I get really excited, but I just want to break it down a little bit for you guys. So what happens after you have the baby, your estrogen levels are low. So when estrogen levels are low, that leads to vaginal dryness, just in general. And then after you have the baby, also your prolactin levels to make milk go up. And prolactin goes up in order for you to make milk, which keeps the estrogen low, but prolactin actually blocks your sex drive when it's too high. Right, yeah. So you're not crazy, right? Like, this is actually biological. But the other one that goes up, hormone that goes up, is oxytocin. And oxytocin is our love hormone. It makes us love, love, love. So when you're actually breastfeeding, this is what helps you to bond to your baby because your oxytocin level goes up. But things are kind of like, right? And then if you add on top of it, maybe you had a vaginal tear, or, you know, even if you've had a C-section, that's major surgery, that's the last thing you want to do, right? Yes. So I say that to say that women are not, you guys are not going crazy. It's actually biological that these things are happening. And this is why this forum is so great. We can actually talk about it because you don't have to suffer alone.
So can you tell me how long you should wait before to have sex after C-section or after vaginal birth?
So the typical medical recommendations are 6 weeks with nothing in the vagina.
Okay.
So that could be, that's hard for me.
Listen,
I love Sherrine. I love it.
the hormones were levels to the gods.
Because it's so hard to wait. What happens if you do it before the 6 weeks?
Well, so it really does depend on the situation, right? If your vagina's tore up, 6 weeks is perfect. Because you don't want anything in there, right?
Okay.
Because it's healing and things like that. So when we talk about intimacy, we have to always remember, when you look up the definition of intimacy, it's just not sex.
Right.
Right. So it's that closeness with your partner and all that other stuff. So if you can't make it, you might have to get creative. So non-penetrative sexual things
Right.
are always an option. I know it's taboo. People don't talk about that.
No.
But it's real.
Yeah.
It's real. So there's other ways to have orgasms and things like that without penetration.
I love it here.
Bet you do.
I just love it
See,
here.
be so free. Yeah. Things that you don't want to talk about, I will.
Right. And I keep looking at my phone because I want to make sure that we're answering all these questions that you have out here. I think you kind of talked about what happens if you can't have sex for 6 weeks. But another question that they have here are, what are some precautions? I feel like you kind of spoke about it.
Kind of. The other thing too is, before you even have the baby, it's a good idea to talk about contraception. Like, what are you doing with baby spacing and all that stuff? What are you gonna do? You should be thinking about that, because although physiologically, when your oxytocin is high and you're breastfeeding, you don't get the period. But I've known quite a few people.
I've seen in my
Right.
family like,
Okay, there you go.
Back to
Still
back.
get pregnant no matter what,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So you do have to kind of have a plan. And you don't have that calendar method, if that's your method, just gets thrown out, right?
Right.
Because you don't have a period
period.
anymore.
Right.
Right. So this is why I say non-penetrative ways might be better for you. But to have that contraceptive method on board, like as soon as some women, we start on birth control right away. It has to be birth control that has no estrogen in it, because estrogen can too much. If we give them estrogen, that can affect their milk supply.
Okay.
So that's why we do progesterone only contraception for women who are who are breastfeeding, for that reason. So having that conversation with your provider is good, because you don't want to have that oops.
Right.
Right. Oh no.
Right, those, what are they called? Irish twins?
Oh,
Right.
I know a couple.
Because they were relying on that breastfeeding thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. And you talked about being creative. And I have a question. So when you give birth, sometimes your partner will not understand that, hey, I'm not there yet.
Right.
And also they don't really understand how to bring intimacy, because we used to our routine without a baby, but now you're different. You need that help. You need that support, that mental support, that emotional support, all of that.
Right.
How can you express to your partner and also find ways to, I guess, to lead them to, hey, these are my emotional needs now.
Right.
And I don't need the sex right now. I need your support.
I need the
and
intimacy,
I
right?
need
That's
the
what
intimacy, but
yeah.
it looks different right now at the moment. How can we express that to our partner?
Yeah, so with men, you have to be like straightforward, right?
Right.
And they're really good with analogies sometimes too, like bring cars into it. It works.
That's the ball, maybe.
Right.
That's the
Yeah,
ball.
like, okay, so let me think of one on the fly. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so maybe like gas in the tank is the sex, right? But to take care of your car, you still have to like vacuum the inside and clean things out, and kind of like, you don't want to have a fast, dirty car.
No.
You may have to wash it, wax it, spend a little time on the wheels, you know? So totally came up with that one on the fly.
That was great.
But it just says there's more to it. It helps them understand that there's more to it, not just like gas in the tank and go. No, there's more to this whole relationship. We have an extra human we now have to take care of. We might have to plan things where we didn't have to plan things before. Maybe we have sex during nap time. Maybe not every single time we're intimate, it doesn't lead to sex.
Right.
Helping me get some sleep, that might lead you far away.
Listen,
Right?
Lord, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I breastfed the baby and the baby's waking because the baby is wet, how about you do that? So I can sleep.
Right.
Because when we sleep, that's the one thing is so important. When you sleep, you just feel better. There's so
Exactly.
many biological things that happen when your body rests. So getting more sleep. So if you want this, I'm gonna need you to have to like start from the morning,
Yes.
Exactly.
right? It's not gonna be the spontaneous.
No.
No, jump on.
Because sex for us and for men too, but mostly for us, is a mind game, literally and figuratively, right? Our hormones are made in our brain, right? So that's the literal part. But figuratively, if we are not feeling loved, if we are like, I don't like you right now, it just shuts down.
Yeah.
There's
Nothing.
nothing that
Nothing's
you can do.
happening.
Like we can give you enough hormones to turn you into a man, it still won't work. Still won't work. So guys don't know this. So we do have to educate them.
So I'm listening to you and I'm thinking of a story I once heard about.
If it's your story, you can say it's your story.
No. So the thing is,
Friends trying not to give
right,
up.
no. I promise.
Okay,
I promise.
explain.
I had a C-section, y'all, so I promise. But I'm trying to find out how to say it in a way that doesn't sound too crass. But basically, vaginal, there are two different stories that I've heard, and I kind of want you to kind of help us understand. The first one was a vaginal birth, and she had a tear, and apparently her vagina don't work the same.
Really?
Can you talk about that?
You know, there's a
it feels
book.
different for him too, and
Yeah.
it feels different for her.
It's like a bowl, it's like a bowling ball down a hallway instead of an alley.
Whoa, okay, let's
You know?
please unpack that.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like the walls, yeah. Okay. So.
Like all of us
babies-
C-section ladies,
Yeah,
because we
had a
all had
C-section.
C-section. So we don't know.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So
See strong.
let me talk about the vagina. Okay. It might be a little biological, but okay, this is why I tell my patients, because I have a nice little model. I should have brought the model. I forgot.
Go back for it, we're
I
good.
know. Anyway, the way the vagina has these, what we call ridges, right? And the purpose of those ridges is so that the vagina can stretch and accommodate the bowling ball baby coming through, right? And then it also, the ridges are so that when you have sex, it stretches. So there's give and take when you have sex. So some of that doesn't snap all the way back, and it may take a little bit of time
But you
for
go
that to come back.
like months, years?
It really depends on how bad the injury was,
Okay.
because there are degrees of tear.
Injuries.
Right?
The girl is
Injury.
injured. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So like I had a 9-pound, 6-ounce baby
Oh.
through my vagina.
Oh, you're strong.
Ooh,
Yeah.
listen.
No, me, it was
Wow.
However, I only had two little first-degree lacerations, so little surface tears.
Perfect, okay.
So what I did to prevent that, because I knew my baby was going to be big,
about
was
to be good.
before.
It's about to be good. I want to look at,
Yeah.
I want to look at Marilyn Molly sing, and she's very uncomfortable for everyone viewing.
So probably about 4 weeks before I had the baby, I taught my husband. So we put olive oil in the vagina. And I
love it.
taught my husband to go in with his thumb, and this is the outside, and go like this,
Oh.
right? That stretches it.
I heard, I
Right?
think I heard.
So I
that.
had him do it at least once a day. And then when we got closer, like 2 times a day, 3, because that's what they're doing in labor. They're stretching you. But if it ain't stretched before,
Yeah,
It's
you
gonna
tear.
tear.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
so coconut oil, olive oil, stretch, that definitely helps. So I like to tell my women about that before, because you can't do it
All
at
right.
the time.
And you're talking about
Wow.
before the pre-baby. How about what you should do after baby to take
Right.
care of that
Mhm.
region, especially
The
after
injury.
the tear?
The injury.
Yes.
Yeah, so you'll get specific instructions from your provider depending on how bad it is. Some women have to sit on a donut, some women it tears all the way to their rectum, and they have to have stitches. So it really does, I know, hurts, right? And did everybody just go, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because that's what you see on TV.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
glorious, but it's
No.
not.
Mhm.
No, it's
Yeah.
not all
But
there.
Kegel exercises really helps. So it helps for that snapback.
Mhm.
Because it's not just the vagina, it's all those muscles in our pelvis that help the vagina contract.
Mhm.
That muscle that you squeeze, like, let's say you're on the toilet and
Mhm.
someone walks in on you and you stop peeing all of a
Mhm.
sudden,
Right.
those are the muscles.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
working those muscles helps the hallway to then become bowling alley, you know,
Okay.
bring it in.
I know, it's amazing.
Interesting.
Mhm.
You're
I think
great
I-
with
I
these
got it
things.
for
Yeah.
something. That one I
Oh,
got.
that was good. That was good. So there is hope and it's
There
nothing to be
is.
embarrassed about. Good.
Right, right.
Look at Loveman, she's
And-
still a deep
and-
thought.
Now I'm like, where were you? Patrick?
I
When I get
know.
work and I have all those questions.
So, and I have a question. So I'm going out of the topic, but I'm taking advantage because we're here.
Right.
It happened to me last night. I was like, no. Not what you're thinking. No.
It's the same thing.
So
There's no judgment. There's no one
No,
listening.
No, that's not how it goes. So, I was sweating and then I sneezed. And then I felt like
You
my,
leaked.
no.
That
Praise
I'm not
God,
sure
there's no
that.
leak in here. But like I felt like something was exploding, and it happens to me from time to time since my C-section. I feel like
Yeah, that
sometimes
happens
when
to
I
me too.
sneeze or when I
Yeah.
do something strenuous,
Yes.
like I feel like something just explodes in my body, and I was
So
like,
that's the scar tissue
Okay.
that's formed. So remember, there's layers that they have to cut through.
Okay.
Top layer, muscle layer, down into the uterus. The uterus has a cut on it too. And then they stitch it back up in layers too. So some women say they have years of sometimes tingling at their C-section site where it doesn't feel right. Like they feel
Yeah.
more on one side, less on the
Yeah.
other side. Yeah. Or that stretching, pulling feeling. So I would say stretch, but stretch make sure you're stretching warm.
okay.
Like, don't just, so you can stretch while you're in bed, because when you're in bed, you're warm. Like when you wake up in the
Okay.
morning.
Gotcha.
But after you've gotten up and walked around, you can't just stretch all of a sudden. You gotta warm your body up.
Okay.
So maybe after a shower, warm. And doing like leg stretches, because that helps your
Okay.
abdomen, right? All you ladies who have had C-sections, you didn't realize how much you used your abdominal muscles till they got cut, right?
Yes.
Right,
Right,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Breathing, sleeping.
Yeah.
Yes. Going to
Talking
the
to
bathroom.
sneeze, sitting up.
Just did
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
Right.
Right, so you do work your abdomen a lot. So that helps with some of the stretching, but it could be some of that scar tissue too.
Okay.
That's good to know, because mine feels like, if you were trying to tenderize meat,
Mhm.
you beat it with like, yeah, that's how mine feels sometimes. No,
Mhm.
Right. Not
But
all the time. It just comes out of
Yeah,
after 3-4 years. You're like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
Let me see. So we're trying to take or viewer choice questions. At the end of season 1, we're very intentional of asking you some of these questions. These are great questions, by the way. We're gonna try to get to all of them, but some of them are deep and intense. So just give some time. So sex drive, you addressed that. And if you were to kind of wrap this up because I think this is the last question, unless we have some. How do you reconnect with your partner after having kids? What are some of the tips that you've used or maybe you've given some of your patients in the time?
So like I said, it's a whole new dynamic, right?
Mhm.
You have an extra human
Mhm.
now that's there that demands a lot of your attention.
Mhm.
So I always encourage people in relationships to think of this as a team. This is a team effort. There's going to be times where you're going to require more of me or I'm going to require more of you. We can't keep tabs on this, we just got to get through. And because you're going to go through these different stages depending on the age and things like that. So just having that conversation, I feel like people are just afraid to have that conversation with their partner, either because they're not sure what they're going to say but even just starting the conversation, you have no idea what the other person is thinking. at all.
True.
And guys, they don't know all the things we go through. We don't know what they go through either. So
yeah.
getting them to open up a little bit, because they do feel a little jealous of the baby.
Yeah.
They may not admit that,
Yeah.
but this human has now taken all of your partner's attention.
All of
right?
it. And the
Right.
feeding jugs are gone.
Yeah.
Their little toys are gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the biological use is now being used.
Right, right. The reason it was
Right.
made.
And I don't want you coming near them.
No.
At this time. So, I mean, having that conversation, I remember times when baby would be crying and I hear the baby crying because, I don't know, there's something biological in women that we just, so I put the crying baby.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I need you to wake up to that.
Right.
Funny story.
Thank
As you
you.
say that, funny story. I remember when our son was born and my husband Karen was being super sweet. And he's like, okay, you sleep tonight. I have the baby. So he sleeps by the side of the bassinet. And I have it on video. And of course he wakes up. And Karen's like,
Drawing deep snore, deeper than ever.
Right.
sound asleep. But I laughed because it was cute. You know, I thought, oh, you were trying to be sweet. But you know, part of
It's not
being sweet is you have to be conscious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, that's so true. That's a lot. It's
It
a lot.
is.
Oh, I thought of something else that I wanted to ask. I've heard of 2 different conditions that happen from giving birth. And just because I have 2 different friends, one with each of the conditions, or one has both, I can't remember. The cervix, I don't remember the scientific name, but basically.
That's it.
Prolapse,
Uh-huh.
and then and then one where the walls separate. Sherrine knows what I'm talking about. She's gonna explain it for you. But basically, can that be fixed? Like, how do you fix that other than surgery?
Well, other than surgery, it's kind of hard, depending on the amount of the prolapse. So prolapse meaning the uterus is up here and now it's down here, right? So it shortens the vaginal canal. And
When you say shorten, can the penis touch it when you have?
if the prolapse is bad enough, yeah.
Wow.
I've seen a prolapse where a woman opens her legs and their uterus is right there, like the cervix is looking at me
Okay.
through the vaginal lips.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
and I
sorry.
go, whoop, how does that feel? And they're like, oh, so much better.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Mhm. So when it's that bad, they do need surgery
Okay.
to pick it back up. There are different things, again, depending on the amount of the prolapse. The other thing you have to remember is when there's prolapse or the uterus, even this can happen in women who have really big fibroids and things like that, it affects the bladder. So it can be a little harder to empty your bladder. And so some women have to sit a certain way to empty their bladder and things like that. And it's
wow.
because you have the bladder, you have the uterus, and you have the rectum. And some women have problems with constipation and fecal incontinence and stuff like that.
Impactment, being impacted and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I've heard about
related to the uterus position, fibroids, all those other things
Wow.
too. So some things, you know, I am an integrative provider,
that.
right?
Yes.
But I'm not gonna tell you to rub herbs on the uterus that's falling out. Okay?
Thank
I've
you.
seen this coming.
You need surgery. Okay,
That one.
all right.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So be frank with your provider, you know, be upfront with your partner too, right? And so depending on what's happening too, you may have to change sexual positions,
Yeah.
right? You have to make those changes when you're pregnant,
Mhm.
because you can't sometimes tolerate laying on your back
Mhm.
and things like that. So put it to your partner this way, the adventure just continues.
It
There's going
does.
to be modifications.
Yeah.
And in order for us to survive through it, we've got to talk about it.
True.
Thank you so much, Sherrine.
Wow.
You just give us so
Incredible.
much information
Right.
that I wish I had 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, I try not to be in what is that? intrusive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't like to act like I know everything, but I've seen quite a few things when it comes to women's health. And I just feel like this is a great forum because I don't know what it is about this newer generation. They don't want to ask.
Yeah.
They want to
yeah.
look everything up on TikTok and
Mhm.
everything like that. And I'm like, you might want to talk to the lady that has like 5 kids.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it's
still
true.
likes her husband.
True.
But you know, the good thing is that there are many forums like this
Mhm.
to get some information. If you are embarrassed to talk about it, we are here for you.
We
Thank
are.
you so much.
And we're totally just appreciative of you giving that
Yes.
and helping people understand, yes, still have babies,
Mhm.
still have fun time, romantic time with your husbands. But I'm so grateful that you've given so much knowledge to empower people who feel like they're going through this thing alone and they're the only one in the world that this is happening to.
Right.
And you're giving information and knowledge and power to husbands and partners to support their person through this.
Definitely.
And we're so appreciative of you.
Uh-huh.
But can we plug you for a second before you leave?
Oh, sure. I'm
So-
always good for a good plug.
Yes. Now, Sherrine mentioned that she is into integrative, holistic She does everything basically. So, you know, some parts of you that are kind of sagging, she can lift it up. Tell us some of the aesthetic type things that you do. Give us a little bit of your run sheet.
So quick run sheet. I love all things aesthetics. So if you're sagging, I help. If you're wrinkled, I help. If you're a little volume depleted, I help. So threads, Botox or toxins or neuromodulators. Botox is such a brand, but I don't only use Botox, but fillers, neuromodulators, and PDO threads. Those are my jam. But I know that women love to look good and feel good. So it doesn't matter how good you look if your hormones are off. And so I am that provider that when you don't feel well and you've gone to everyone and they say, you're fine. All your labs, they're fine. No, I believe you when you don't feel good. And so I'm a bit of a detective and I will look into your diet, look into your sleep habits, look into some micronutrients that they don't typically test and try to get you to feel and look better.
Thank you so much.
And this is true because I've seen her
God's
do it.
work.
And because I am, thank you, okay? And because we like to follow all your social media pages, I don't want to misspeak, but are you also getting into something about hair loss?
Oh, so peptides is my new jam.
Okay.
So I dabble in a little bit of peptides now to help women with metabolic syndrome and weight loss and things like that. But just turning it up, the peptide world is huge, it's exploding. So I'm getting in on it early, but looking at how peptides help with hair loss, wrinkles, things like that for people who aren't into those big fillers and, you know, things like that. And then peptides to help, and what peptides do, they're messengers to help your body work better. And that's why I like them. And so struggling with weight loss, struggling with your hormones, struggling with all these other things, peptides, that little sprinkle right on top, that I'm really, really excited about to add to my practice. So that's my newest jam and I'm excited. So my handles, the name of my practice is Your Will Wellness. So Your Will Wellness, people ask me why I came up with that name, because I really feel like wellness is part of you. You have to want to be well, and your body has the ability to heal itself, but you have to treat it right. So Your Will Wellness, that's where that came from. And then my aesthetic page on Instagram is Beauty Well Balance without the D.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks again for coming.
Thanks for having me. I love it. When I got a text, I'm like, ooh, what are we gonna talk about?
You never disappoint,
Yeah.
ever.
Never.
Show Sherrine some love. Please follow her pages. Also jump into the comments and let her know what you thought. And if you have any questions that you want to ask, please feel free to ask them. Or you can also send us messages. I don't want to say email and sound like your grandma, but just send us messages on any of our social media platforms and we'll try our best to get to them on your behalf. As always, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, we are She Who Speaks. Bye.
She who speaks.